Planet Vero Studio is powered by the Nolan Group of eXp Realty. Chris Nolan grew up in New York until he joined the U.S. Marine Corps in 1996. He then joined the U.S. Capitol Police until making the transition to real estate. Shortly after, the Nolan Group was formed. They continue to strive for the best possible experience for buyers and sellers. How can they help you in your journey? And now, here's The Nolan Show with your host, Chris Nolan.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Nolan Show. Thanks for tuning in. With us as always, we got Heather Lewis. How you doing, Heather?
I'm doing fabulous.
Awesome, glad to hear it. And then also joining us from way down south, we got Mr. John Pinkley. Actually, he was going to come up, but he's been super busy, so he's joining us remotely. How you doing there, John?
I'm doing great. Excellent.
Awesome. So glad you can join us today. So, John, we wanted to talk to you a little bit about today. We have a lot of people out there, and with the market doing the shift that it's done, it's actually opened up a lot of possibilities for people, especially first-time home buyers that are getting out there. So we wanted to talk go back to some of the basics of what does it take to get started in the loan process.
Yeah, it's been a wild couple of years actually with real estate, and it's been extremely important now to get pre-approved before going to look for homes. The market is really competitive, and a pre-approval letter shows that you're serious, shows that you're qualified to buy the house, and that's the bare minimum. There's a lot of things you can do beyond that to be prepared, but I say prior to COVID, it wasn't as much of a necessity, but in the last 3 years, 2.5, 3 years, it's been absolutely required. You have to be pre-approved. Nobody's even going to consider an offer that hasn't been looked at by a qualified mortgage person. Well,
it really is super important because it tells you what you can comfortably afford. Absolutely. And, it helps us to build that platform so that you can get into a house and not only get into the house, but enjoy the house and not be overspent. Mm-hmm. So, this is where guys like you come in. I know we might have a little bit of a delay for anybody out there, but so John, I know you said about getting pre-qualified. How difficult is that for somebody to do?
It's super easy. It can be intimidating for people, and I find that getting them to just make the phone call is sometimes daunting, but it's really nothing to be scared of. I mean, literally in 15 minutes, I can have, if there's no trouble that I have to investigate further, within 15 minutes, I can have a good idea of what we're talking about, have a credit report in hand, have know what the credit score is, know what the income is, and how the house that they're looking to buy, or they're not sure what the amount is that would be a normal happy amount for them to borrow, without trouble. So it's like you said, you brought up it's not only for the purpose of the realtor to figure out what they're qualified for, but the buyer, the home buyer really needs to know, if I'm looking at a $300,000 house, what does that payment mean to me, and is that something that I'm going to be comfortable with? So Absolutely. It really accomplishes, in a short amount of time, 15, 20 minutes, you can really accomplish a lot and figure out exactly where you stand. You might be willing to go higher on your purchase price, or maybe that purchase price that you thought was too high. Super important, though.
Yeah, without a doubt. At the end of the day, what makes a house affordable for us is what is that end payment? Yep. Because does it really matter what the purchase price is if the payment is at the budget that we're comfortable with?
And it's the house that you want. Absolutely.
The house that you want. So now we just got to get that budget. And then, depending on what your circumstances, part of why this is so important, it also helps to find the programs. There's a ton of programs out there.
There is. There's a ton of programs. Well, and another thing John does is John's always telling me to try to get my clients to send in more stuff so we can get approved and we can close a lot sooner.
Right.
So how soon can you close, John? If
Sure. Yeah. Well, the step beyond the typical pre-approval, if somebody calls me today and we do a pre-approval, um, if they're going to commit to sending in documents or we find a house, say that day,
Mhm.
the normal closing time, I would say, without putting a asterisk by it and y- being unsure, 30 days to 45 days is a normal close time. Um, and again, there's still that process in the way of being pre-approved. The next step would be to get all the documents from the client, pay stubs, bank statements, that sort of thing,
Right.
tax returns, and then get it into an underwriter that reviews the file and makes sure that all the information that was put in the computer is correct and gives a full approval. Okay. So that's the normal process. That's the process of being pre-approved and then moving on to getting fully approved if you find a house. There's actually we've kind of created avoided or eliminated a step in that where we can actually get people fully approved for a dollar amount for a purchase price and a dollar amount of a property that they haven't even found yet. And that's huge because we can get them through that process. And the golden ticket is called a commitment letter. And a commitment
Mhm.
letter is a full approval. It's a commitment from the bank to say, Mr. and Mrs. Smith are fully approved, subject to the appraisal because we don't know
Right.
what the house address is yet,
Mhm.
and subject to title and insurance. But other than that, the borrower is completely approved. They've been signed off on. That process we call our get committed process, which is to get them fully get a commitment letter to them. And that can happen before they even find a house, in which case we could close as quickly as 15 days.
That's awesome.
But the real benefit, I think a lot of times sellers may not be willing to close that quickly because they have to get their life in order to move out. But the real benefit is that there's no unknown with you. If you're in
Yeah.
competition with another buyer,
Hmm.
and there's two offers that come in for the same dollar amount, 300, say, pick a number, 300,000, two offers for 300,000. One of them is fully approved and one's pre-approved without an underwriting decision and without a commitment letter. The commitment letter in the full approved version is way safer. There's no risk to the
Yep.
seller. They still have to go through a couple of small items, the appraisal and title, but there's no concern about their qualifications from their income standpoint or credit standpoint. So that's the more solid deal, and that's what I was talking about, being prepared. If you
Hmm.
know you want to buy a house, prepare yourself. Get as you're going into battle.
Yep.
Mhm.
You may be up against three or four, even in this market, there may be three or four offers on good homes right now, and you want to
Hmm.
win. So what are you doing to try to win?
Well,
Absolutely.
even if you're not going up against three or four offers, even if it's just a one offer and we're negotiating, this puts you in a stronger negotiating spot. So you have the ability to actually ask for a little bit more on the other side
Right.
of what you might need. Because if we can go sooner,
Mhm.
because we do have sellers that need to move that fast.
They do, or they're empty, and
Yeah.
it's
Right.
perfect.
I got a call today for somebody that wanted to make a purchase because of tax implications, and they wanted to close before the end of the year. We're really tight on that. Now, luckily, they'll pay cash on that.
Right.
So we can get it done if we find a house in the next couple of days.
Okay.
Right. So, by knowing what your power is
Mhm.
and by having all the tools in place, we can make an offer. If we have a house that's, vacant, seller wants to get it off of their books because they can lose the tax, not, keep paying taxes and payments on theirs. We're golden.
Yep.
So, so that's a big thing to find exactly what everybody needs.
Hmm. Love it.
I'll add one more thing to that,
Sure.
and that it would clearly be a number three of those positives associated with getting fully approved. But the fact that you may be selling a house and buying a house, and that 30-day time frame, if you have an agreement to buy and sell in 30 days, you got to pack, you got to find all the documents that I'm looking for, the loan process. It's a chaotic 30 days.
Mhm.
Right.
And if you can take care of that piece of it ahead of time, man, your life's a lot easier.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's all about preparation. And that's why we want to make sure that we make this as smooth and simple. And this is why we do this stuff. This is why we team with top lenders. This is why we have the systems that we use on the team, all the different service providers that we use to make sure that the buying process is as simple, or selling process is as simple as it possibly can and streamlined. The one thing is it is a stressful thing to buy and sell a home. It's, for most people, it's the largest transaction that they will make in their life. And it's nerve-wracking. So that's why we make sure that we bring the highest level of service, but it starts with the simple systems. And that's to get the pre-approval, find out what our budget is, make sure that you're comfortable with it. The budget changes, if we're looking at a property with a big HOA versus no HOA. Changes what we can purchase.
Absolutely.
Right? So, and then, of course, what loan programs do people qualify for? There's some pretty cool ones out there. John, I mean, we've talked about it. I mean, obviously, we have the basic ones, but we also have the renovation loans.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And that's where...
renovation loans, new construction.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just... we were saying the same thing at the same time.
So new construction, construction rehab loans, they kind of went away for a little while, the construction rehab loans, but they're back now that things are less chaotic with COVID calming down. There was a lot of stress in the business, and I think a lot of lenders were not sure how everything was going to play out. They were concerned about protecting themselves. So there's some programs that went away, but that's back now. There's buy downs. There's all kind of ways to try to get you, comfortable with your purchase. Whether it's, your monthly payment that you're trying to get down or.
Absolutely. John, I know we want to talk more about those buy downs and the interest rates, but we do have to take a quick break. So stand by for just a minute. Everybody out there, don't go anywhere. Stick around. We'll be right back. See you in just a minute. Not crypto coins, not penny stocks. The best tool to build wealth is still real estate. I'm Chris Nolan of the Nolan Group of eXp Realty. Invest today and allow your real estate to provide a future for your family tomorrow. We'll show you the way. Visit mynexthomefinder.com.
Dr. Stephen Tate offers the safest and most efficient technique for customized cataract surgery. Patients are personally counseled on the best approach for their needs and lifestyle. From multifocal lenses that allow for distance and reading vision to toric lenses that correct astigmatism, let New Vision Eye Center guide you safely through your options. For world-class eye care on the Treasure Coast, visit newvisioneyecenter.com.
Affordable Water continues to offer you the best water on the Treasure Coast. Earn a competitive salary and a 401k working weekdays as a delivery driver or water treatment tech. To apply, stop in at Affordable Water in Sebastian at 645 Old Dixie Highway.
Wild, untamed, hilarious. Riverside Theater's Comedy Zone. Experience the Treasure Coast's best stage for live stand-up comedy this Friday and Saturday night at 7 and 9 p.m. You'll laugh till it hurts. Start your night at Live in the Loop with live entertainment, food and drinks, and after, be entertained with nationally ranked comedians, including an opening act and headliner with cabaret-style seating and food and drink table service. Get tickets at riversidetheater.com.
Who's got time to clean? When you need it clean, call Germ Wizards LLC. Using the most up-to-date equipment, Germ Wizards pays strict attention to detail. They make dust disappear. Whether you need your office to sparkle, your home to shine, or you want to give someone a great gift, hire the Germ Wizards. It's easy to get a quote online. There's even an online portal to discuss details directly with your cleaning professional. Visit GermWizardsLLC.com. Make dust disappear with Germ Wizards.
Hey everybody, glad you're still there. We are still here in the studio, and remotely we are joined by John Pinkley, for anybody just tuning in, with Compass Mortgage. Glad you're still there, and thanks for joining us, John.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. So, and if you're just joining us, we have a little bit of a delay with the internet.
That's what I was going to say.
So we were just talking about some of the loan stuff, and I know we were going to talk a little bit about you mentioned the buy downs. Okay. Everybody's concerned because they're hearing about the interest rates. Now, the interest rates, even though they're much higher than they were last year at this time, they are still not historically high, but they have the buy downs. John, you want to explain to us what the buy downs are all about?
Yeah, sure. There's a couple different ways to make your interest rate lower and improve your lower your monthly payment. And one way would be a permanent buy down, and that would be where you pay points, which is traditionally been a bad word, but it's actually not. In this environment where rates are above where they were, they're in the sixes or so right now. 1 point, which equals 1% of the loan amount, you can maybe save as much as a quarter or 3/8%, possibly a half, depending on the situation. But so with a permanent buy down, you pay a little bit of money, or maybe even the seller pays it if you make that make the concession part of the contract. So that permanent buy down means that if your rate was going to be 6.5, then maybe you bought it down to 6%, and you pay money up front, and 1% of the loan amount, whatever that might be, and you enjoy that rate for the entire duration of the loan, 15, 20, 30 years, whatever the term is. Another option, if that's not, it's that can be, you have to do the math. You figure you're paying 1% of the loan amount. If it's a $400,000 loan, you're paying $4,000 to save how much? Maybe it's $80, maybe it's 100. Depends on what it is. But that number divided by the savings equals your break-even time frame. So is it going to take 3 years, 5 years to break even? You have to consider that I'm paying money today that I'm not going to get back, and unless I stay in the house for that period of time, whether that's 3 or 5 years or whatever it is. So you have to do the math and say, okay, does it make sense to do that? And, a lot of times it doesn't. A lot of times people say, I'm not sure. I think rates are going to go down, or maybe I'm not going to stay in this house that long. I might only be in the house, 5 years, what have you. It's a personal decision, and there's no right or wrong answer. But the other type of buy down is called a 2-1 buy down, which is the seller. You arrange for the seller to pay for the buy down, and if the going rate is 6.5, the first year, the 2-1 buy down, the first year you get a 2% discount on the interest rate for that first year. So instead of 6.5, you get 4.5, and then the second year you get a 1% discount, which would be 5.5, and then year 3 through 30, or what if it's a 30-year loan, you would then have your note rate, which would be the 6.5%. So this can be effective for somebody that, maybe they feel like, the 6.5% rate that's out there right now is a little bit of a stretch. As a lender, I might be able to approve them, and they may be fine, from an approval standpoint, but maybe they're just feeling a little bit uncomfortable, and they see down the road that they're going to have they got a raise coming, or a bonus that's going to kick in, or what have you. So again, this very personalized, and all these type of scenarios are something that we try to explore with the client to see what their interest is. The good thing about a 2-1 buy down, again, it's the seller has to pay it, so it's built into the purchase price of the home. But the good thing about that is if you end up refinancing, let's say the rates go down and you want to take advantage of a long-term rate now, you did the 6.5, which was 4.5 first year, 5.5 second, 6.5, 3 through 30. In year 2, let's say maybe the rates went down to 4.5.
Right.
And you're like, well, I want to take advantage of the rates today. I'm going to refinance and take that rate. Well, any money that was set aside for supplementing that payment comes back to the buyer. It's a refund. So a little bit complicated, but let's say year 1, they're saving $400 a month. over the 6.5% rate. 400 times 12, they're saving $400 a month for that first entire year. That's $4,800. Year two would be half of that, or 1% discount, $2,400. So you got $7,200 was the cost to do that buy down. That money actually goes into effectively a savings account that every month gets depleted by the $400 or by the $200, depending on the year. And whenever they refinance, or if they were to sell, that money that's still left over that had supplemented their payments, that money is refunded to the buyer, to the homeowner.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's a pretty cool scenario. It's a pretty cool situation. You got to have a seller that's willing to participate in it. But the way appraisals are going now, I think it's a lot of times appraisals are coming in higher than the purchase prices.
Yeah.
So that can be done.
Absolutely. And, the thing about it is, in 25 minutes, we can only give out so much information. Yeah. Bottom line is, it's about having a plan. And if you are looking, we can sit down with you. It doesn't cost anything. It doesn't cost anything to get pre-approved with John and get all that stuff started. It doesn't cost anything to start with us. And at that point, you get to make an educated decision based on what's right for you and your family. And that's power right there. Then if you choose to stay where you're at, you're staying there because it's the best financial decision. If you choose to purchase a home or sell a home, it's because it's the best decision for you and your family. And when you have that information, when you have that knowledge, that is power. That's how wealth is built. Making it when it's convenient for you and good for you, and not when it's a reaction type of thing.
Right.
So whether you're going to buy a year from now, 2 years, or a month from now, it's good to at least have that initial consultation.
Yep.
So,
and it's free.
Yeah. So speaking of, John, if somebody wants to reach out to you to get the ball rolling and at least find out some basic numbers, how would they reach out to you?
Sure. My cell phone is always on. Rarely does it not get answered, but my cell phone is 630-854-7889. And that's my old stomping grounds in Chicago before I relocated down to Florida. Email is john.pinkley at compmort.com.
Very cool. Yeah, and we're obviously always available as well. You can reach us, and you guys have our emails, but I'm cnolan@thenolangroup.com, and then Heather is
Lewis
at thenolangroup.com. Yes, absolutely. So, John, I got one more question before we let you go. We're talking about money, and I know we have a lot of people that are out there renting right now that are considering their first purchase. What happens when they close on their loan and they settle on their property? How long is it until their first payment is due?
Sure. Any purchase that happens, typically, you're gonna have a full month expire before the beginning of the following month your payment is due. So it can be anywhere from 30 days to 60 days approximately. If you close at the beginning of a month, say the 10th of any given month, the interest through the end of that month is only 20 days. If you close on the 10th, there's 20 days of interest remaining in that month. That will not be a part of a payment. Keep in your head, every payment is an equal payment for 30 years. So they're not going to have a partial payment for 1 month. So in that case of closing January 10th, your first payment would be March 1st after the entire month of February you were in the house.
Absolutely. So the point is, you could have up to 60 days before your first payment is due. So when you're doing the transition from the rental to your first payment, it'll help you that way. It gives a little bit of room. Definitely want to give us a call. Reach out to us. Again, cnolan@thenolangroup.com, hlewis@thenolangroup.com. You can also call me directly at 772-539-2473. And, we just want to make sure that you guys have the tools to really make the best possible decisions for you and your family. And once again, John, thank you so much for joining us today. I can't thank you enough. and for providing all the support that you always do.
Yes.
And
thank you. I wish we had more time.
Yeah,
So.
It runs by real fast. So, but we will definitely be seeing you here soon. I know you got to get back to work, so we will let you go. But everybody else out there, thank you for spending time with us. We will see you real soon. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us to your new home. We'll see you shortly. Bye, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.